Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms. Part of being a real estate investor is paying tax. Even more so, understanding how to pay as little tax as legally possible. Today, we're going to meet a superstar investor that helps people find great out-of-the-box tax strategies by investing passively. A lot of benefit without a lot of work. Today on the Real Estate Guys radio program. If you've been listening to the Real Estate Guys for a while, then you've heard about the legendary Investor Summit. Simply put, it's the highest level event we do, and the content, faculty, and attendees are amazing. If you're serious about taking your real estate investing to the next level, then join us next summer. You'll spend an entire week with like-minded investors, world-class educators, and real-world professionals, and you'll have a blast. It all begins June 6, 2023 in Ambergris Caye, Belize. Visit realestateguysradio.com and click on the tab that says Summit to learn more and reserve your spot. We'll spend a sun-drenched week learning and networking with more than 25 class sessions and breakouts, plus small format roundtable discussions, great dinner conversations, and a ton of fun. It's nearly 70% full already, but there's room for you if you go to realestateguysradio.com and click Summit and make plans to spend a week with the Real Estate Guys and an all-star faculty on the 21st Annual Investors Summit on Sand. Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio show. I'm your host, Robert Helms, and joining me in the co-host seat, it's our financial strategist, Russell Gray.
Hey, Robert.
Lots and lots of reasons to invest in real estate. Some people have pride of ownership. They just love owning stuff. Some people want the tax benefits associated with real estate. Some people are after cash flow, and some folks want appreciation. And it's not one size fits all. Different investments serve different purposes. But today what we're going to talk about is the certain advantages that are available that favor people that have a high taxable income. So there's a lot of folks out there that just because of what they do and the way they earn their money, they pay a lot of tax. Real estate and other assets can help lighten the load of that tax burden.
Well, the timing on this is great. Obviously, we're in the thick of tax season. A lot of people are reviewing their numbers and calculating their liabilities in terms of their tax bill. And probably most folks out there who are paying more tax than they would like are going to be very interested in discovering new strategies for getting out from underneath that burden legally. The other thing is we're also becoming neck deep in presidential season, and we've got the major contender on the Republican side, the infamous Donald Trump, who in the 2016 campaign was famously derided for paying no tax. And of course, we covered that at that time. And he really wasn't doing anything nefarious. He was taking advantage of the tax code that, as our good friend Tom Wheelwright explains to us all the time, was written to incentivize capital to go where the government wants it to go, to create jobs, to create buildings and infrastructure.
Yep.
So as real estate investors, that very same tax code that these big guys take advantage of is available to us on Main Street. The difference between them and us usually is simply scale and access to advisors who really know how to play the game. And so it's always fun this time of year to talk with people who are playing the tax abatement game using the tax code on Main Street successfully. And so we are super excited about today's show because we're going to dive deep into how you can take either your passive income, if you have passive income, your active income, which is taxed differently, or your portfolio income, which are those capital gains that you receive when you buy low, sell high, and apply different tax investing strategies to mitigate those earnings that you already have so that you get to take home more of the profits you're generating.
Real estate has a lot of advantages, and one of the big advantages is many of the deductions in the tax code in the United States and other countries are all around investment in real estate and being able to write off the improvements. Now, we aren't tax professionals, but we know a lot of them, and it does attract people to real estate investing, the tax side. Our guest today has that exact story. We'll let him tell it to you next as we meet the real asset investor, Dave Zook, back on the Real Estate Guys today.
Live nationwide, you're listening to the Real Estate Guys. Find out more at realestateguysradio.com.
Stop for a moment. Why are you listening to this show? Are you dreaming of a bigger, brighter financial future? More personal freedom to live life on your own terms? What if there was just one skill that could make it happen? There is. Sales. Robert Kiyosaki says every entrepreneur must be good at sales. It's true for investors too. Sales is how you attract money, people, and opportunities. Sales is the skill used to negotiate deals and lead your team. Sales skills are essential to success. The good news is, it's a learnable skill. The great news is, we've created a 2-day interactive workshop to teach those skills to you. Make plans today to attend How to Win Funds and Influence People, Mastering the Art of Financial Selling. For dates and details, send an email to sales@realestateguysradio.com or visit realestateguysradio.com and look under events. Gain the skills you need to succeed. Email sales@realestateguysradio.com or look under the events tab at realestateguysradio.com.
With everything going on in the world, don't let your lack of financial understanding derail your investments. Real estate investors need to see the bigger economic picture. The Federal Reserve, bonds and interest rates, precious metals, oil and gas, cryptocurrency, and the inner workings of monetary policy, just a start. If you're at all confused about how and why market metrics intersect and what it means to you as a real estate investor, take your understanding to a new level with the Future of Money and Wealth video collection. Discover the opportunity to hedge against inflation, deflation, and stagflation. Gain critical insights on real estate niches that perform well in challenging times, and learn specific strategies to fortify your balance sheet before it's too late. Simply send an email to future@realestateguysradio.com for all the details. The Future of Money and Wealth includes 20 videos of powerful presentations and panel discussions featuring Robert Kiyosaki, Peter Schiff, G. Edward Griffin, Dr. Doug Duncan, Simon Black, CPA Tom Wheelwright, Brian London, Dr. Chris Martinson, and many more. Email future@realestateguysradio.com today.
Hi, this is Mauricio Raul, the founder and CEO of Muir Law Group, and you're listening to The Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program, heard every weekend on this fabulous radio station all the time at realestateguysradio.com. We love real estate and we love saving money on taxes. Today we're talking about out-of-the-box tax strategies for passive investors. And our guest is a guy that was actually driven by the tax decisions. Today, he invests in all kinds of stuff, and we're good friends. We go way back. But really, he got interested in first apartments and then all real assets based on having a high tax bill. Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program, Mr. Dave Zook. Hey, Dave.
Hey, guys. Good to see you. Good to be back here.
Hey, it's great to have you on the program. And I just love your story because you weren't really interested in real estate. You'd had a little real estate experience and didn't really grab you. But then the whole tax picture came up. Take us through that evolution.
Yeah, so I watched my dad self-manage some single-family homes when I was a teenager, preteen and teenager. I quickly decided that I wasn't going to be a real estate investor. That changed after, more than a decade later. I built a couple of successful businesses and got myself into a tax position where I was paying $500,000 a year in tax. And I got desperate and started kind of going down the rabbit trails and found Robert Kiyosaki. The only way that I could get to Robert Kiyosaki that I knew of was to go on your ship, go on the Real Estate Guys Summit at Sea.
Yeah.
And so I hunted him down, and I had to know what he was talking about when he said you can make millions of dollars a year and pay no tax legally. So I quickly found out that real estate was the key to being able to make a lot of money, use that depreciation from real estate to offset tax liability. And so quickly, I went from not wanting to be a real estate investor to all of a sudden I couldn't get my hands on enough of it. And so, yes, that was my entry into the real estate game. I had been primarily building businesses prior to that.
Well, that's kind of one of those dates with destiny back in 2012 on the Investors Summit. I remember meeting you and you were really candid. You're like, I didn't come for you guys. I came to meet Robert and his team. And you had a chance to talk to Tom Wheelwright on that summit. And that really propelled you on this path. Since then, you've invested in all kinds of things. Not everything you invest in is, tax favored, if you will. But many times your decision is driven by that for you and your investors. So the first thing we should say is none of us are tax advisors. Dave is not a CPA. He's not an enrolled agent. He's not an accountant. But he had a tax problem, and he figured out how to solve it through the tax code legally with real estate investing. And today you help other people passively invest in the same way, but this is the hot button. You meet a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs that have tax issues and through various means help them solve that problem.
Yeah, so conventional wisdom says that if you make a lot of money, you got to pay a lot of tax. And I believed that for a long time. And so that was a big paradigm shift. One of the things that Tom Wheelwright told me on the cruise with you guys was if you want to change your tax, you got to change your facts. You got to change the way that you do business. You got to change the way that you invest. You got to change the way you behave. And so that changed my life. It was the first time in my life that I realized that it was in my power. I could set my own destiny in that space. And if I behaved a certain way, I would get treated differently. And so, yeah, that changed my life. I had several light bulb moments on the ship that week, and that was one of them.
So let's talk about, how you find these interesting deals where there may be more tax advantage than other potential investments. Obviously, you've invested in single family houses, heavy in apartments, resort properties, so a lot of real estate in your portfolio. Remember the first time we talked about automated teller machines, a very tiny little piece of real estate, if you will, but they had some unique tax benefits. How did you get interested in that asset class? And tell us that story.
So I knew some guys in Lancaster. They were highly regarded business guys and well respected in the community. Lifelong Lancaster, Pennsylvania guys in my community. And I guess I was used to sort of doing this in business. I would align myself with good vendors, good people, good, other peers. And so when I had the opportunity to do business with those guys, and then, really wanting to get around them and wanting to do business with them, but also trying to figure out, what is this? How does it work? I love the cash flow. And when I figured out it's 100% bonus depreciation, you can shield most of your cash flow and make a lot of tax-free income. I loved it. So I started investing in ATMs myself, and I was a passive investor for about 4 years. And we were getting along really well, liked the guys, and I guess they liked me because they at one point came to me and said, "Hey, we signed on a large portfolio of ATMs, bigger than we'd have ever done before." And I'd been building the multifamily apartment syndication business and was acquiring a lot of apartment units, and they saw what I was doing over there and said, "Hey, come partner with us." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, nobody syndicates ATM machines. This is like," I thought it was a joke, and then, we get down toward the end of the year and they were like, "Hey, this is, 100% bonus depreciation year one. You could really, do this." And I got to thinking, well, I love this investment. I've been doing this deal for a long time. I know these guys. It works for me. Why wouldn't it work for my investors? It fits right along the line of the things that we teach about tax efficiency and cash flow. And so we did. And that was in 2016. Back then, we were a small sort of friends and family fund. And I helped them scale the business, and we grew a lot since then. And today we're one of the top 4 ATM operators in the country.
That is amazing. And you wouldn't necessarily think about that as you walk around. You go and you see bank ATMs on the outside of bank buildings run by the banks. Then you go to places like convenience stores and airports, and you start to see these more generic ATM machines. And what people may not realize is those are owned sometimes by individuals. I had a friend back in California. He owned 10 machines, and he was a sheriff. And on the weekends and evenings, he would go service the machines himself. Now, you guys are on the opposite spectrum of that. And the folks that invest in ATM machines with you are very passive, very hands-off. But there is this kind of tax benefit side. And again, it's not the type of investment that works for everybody. So how do you help someone decide, hey, is this for me? Is it just ROI? What about the tax side? What about the life of the asset? All those kinds of questions.
Yeah, so we normally take a person's specific story. Our advantages doing business in several different funds, natural gas, ATM, self-storage, car washes, we can sort of tailor an investment plan around that person's specific situation. And oftentimes we'll tell the tax story. It's very near and dear to my heart, obviously, because, I was a tax slave. And the more people I can help free from their tax burdens, the happier I am. So oftentimes we'll, kind of take a look at at their situation. And one of the first questions I'll often ask is, how are you getting taxed? Like, how do you make your money? You make $500,000 a year, you make $200,000 a year, you make $1 million a year. How are you making that money? How are you getting taxed? And then we can sort of kind of go down that path and tell them the different benefits. And you're right. It's not for everybody. An ATM investment may not be for everybody. A natural gas investment may not be for everybody. Natural gas, you got a lot of volatility. ATMs, there's different sort of stories that go along with any specific asset class, but it really starts with the investor's story. And I've trained my staff to go down that path with investors to figure out what's their story and then help them, put them in a good position to win going forward.
Most people who want to make an investment want to do it for preservation of capital, return of capital, tax benefits, and they're kind of open to the vehicle they use. We've had fun over the years since you've done so many real estate deals when you started to do things like coal and uranium and ATMs. It's like that's interesting to learn about. But then you still have some real estate investments like self-storage that are hard assets, real estate, and that really covers kind of your sweet spot, if you will, is things that are real. And the latest one is pretty fascinating. So we haven't talked about this on the show, but I think let's talk about car washes, because apparently whatever's making cars dirty is continuing to happen, and people need their cars cleaned.
That's correct. We've also found that, like self-storage, car washes are very recession resistant. Who's going to drive their new car around town dirty for $20 a month for a monthly subscription? Nobody. And oftentimes what I'll do is I'll look back and say, okay, how did this asset class perform, from 2008 to 2010?
Yeah.
How did this asset class perform in 2020, 2021, 2022? And so you kind of get a sense of how that asset class may perform going forward in times of uncertainty. That's one of the reasons why we like the car wash space. It's been a very resilient asset class. One of the other things, as you guys know, unlike back in 2012, when I started buying multifamily apartment buildings, there's not a lot of low-hanging fruit out there. There's not a lot of opportunity to go out and buy a really nice asset that'll give you good yield on your equity. And so, being able to buy a piece of real estate and then force the value, build an asset on there that you can equip and put a good team in there and build a business around it. Going out there and forcing value in today's market is one of the ways that we've found works really well, that you can still do really well in this kind of investment environment.
So let's help some of the listeners understand that when you buy something like an apartment building, right, you're buying land and maybe you buy the existing building or maybe you have it built new. But what you're doing is creating an asset that has value, but it has cash flow. People are going to live in the apartment and pay you rent, and that's a wonderful model. Well, the car wash is really no different. You find a great piece of land, you build a specific structure and its combination of equipment and improvements and all of that to create a money-producing factory, cash flow. So really, it's not that different. You could say, well, it's a retail investment or it's a business opportunity. Well, yes, but it still is turning dirt into dollars, taking real estate and coming up with a mechanism. For years, people have called attention to the fact that McDonald's is not in the hamburger business. They're in the real estate business. They find great corners, they find great locations, and they build something on that land that produces great cash flow. And to your point, car washes aren't just when the economy's well. There's the business aspect. You want your car to look good. All salespeople want to have their cars look good. Most people who are into cars want their cars to look clean. And let's face it, if your car gets too dirty, someone's going to come along and write, "Wash me" on it.
Yeah. So when you look at what happened in the last 2.5 years, if you've been following the used car market, the new car market at all, you know what has happened. And so you've got all these new cars out there, and you're right. For $25 a month, they're not going to drive around town in that new car and let it be dirty. Wanted to touch a little bit on, we were talking about tax earlier. Wanted to touch a little bit on the significance of this asset class when it has to do with tax. you guys and many of your listeners are all familiar with cost segregation studies and bonus depreciation and all that.
Yeah.
So one of the things I discovered a few years ago was there's something unique about car washes, and it's unique to car washes and gas stations. It's the only two commercial real estate asset classes that you can take the building and you can write that off as if it were a piece of equipment. You don't need to do a cost seg study. You can take 100% bonus depreciation. You can take the depreciation and write that off just like as it were a piece of equipment.
Wow.
So it's a very cash flow intensive business. It's a very tax impactful business.
That's a fascinating point. And it was one of the things that I wondered when you started talking about this, like, what's the attraction? And there's a couple. When you can find a location and actually build, and you guys do some of that, that helps you drive some of that equity. But to have this deduction ability is huge. And I think there's one more thing that's really unique. I'm sure there's plenty we can talk about, and if folks are interested, you've got a great report on this. But I think of the car wash and I think, okay, if my car's dirty, I'm going to drive by. In my neighborhood, it's like, $15 to wash my car. And, they're going to vacuum it and all that kind of stuff. But, I might drive by, I might not. You mentioned membership early, and some people may understand this, but there's a lot of places in the world that this doesn't exist. Instead of taking sporadic income based on the weather, you guys actually have a different business model based on folks signing up for the long term. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so there's always room for a drive-by customer, and somebody wants to come in and pay for a wash, pay $8 for a basic wash, or it could be up to $20 for a wash if we get the whole package. But what we've really put a lot of attention to is to build up that subscription model. And when you understand our business model and what we're trying to do, realizing what the institutions want. The institutions are all over subscription-based businesses. Look at Netflix, or look at some of the others, software, subscription-based stuff. So I'll give you an example. One of the things that has to do, a lot with our business model, and we're building this to eventually sell. We want to build these assets that in a way that we'd like to hold them forever. But when you see institutional capital chasing these assets, paying an 18 to 20x multiple on EBITDA, you want to keep them forever, but you'd be crazy to. And so we're watching all this, and we realize that subscription model benefits us in several ways. Number one, once you get to a certain size and scale in that specific car wash, most of your, once you get by 3,000 washes a month, most of the other revenue falls right straight to your bottom line. You're covering your hard costs, your fixed costs, and most of the rest of that falls right to your bottom line. So you're increasing your cash flow. You're taking the volatility out of that monthly business. And at the end of the day, you're driving a value. One of the things that we did when we took over one of the top 10 performing stores in the entire Tommy's Express business, or of all the franchisees, was we went in and within 4 months, we grew that subscription base by more than 30%. Many of your folks that came to Syndication last year came down and visited the San Antonio Tommy's Express car wash with us, and they saw it firsthand. But what we did is we took that membership up more than 30% in like 4 months. And when you understand how the institutions price these assets, we increase the value, and forget about the increased cash flow for a second, but we increase the value in that one location by over $6 million by doing that.
That is amazing. And if you think about it, right, recurring revenue makes sense for anybody, a passive investor who wants to be involved, guys like you running these businesses, and really the people that might eventually take it out. And I think that is a really unique point of view. And I love that you said we're ready to hold it forever. But what's happened in your self-storage business, same thing, right? You acquired some self-storage units and little by little added more and got to a point where you were attractive to institutional capital and sold a big chunk of them off. Not because they weren't good investments, not because you wouldn't have been perfectly content to hang on to those things and just let them cash flow, but because of the multiples that institutional investors will pay. And they are, frankly, too busy and too big to hunt around for one-off deals. When we first started talking about car washes, people were figuring, I'm going to go buy the equipment and build a car wash and put Joe's Car Wash on the outside or whatever your name might be. This is different than that. This is a franchise. This is a up and running and proven system, and that definitely mitigates some of the downside risk.
Yeah, and if we thought the self-storage space was fragmented, the car wash space is like micro-fragmented.
Wow.
You got Mr. Car Wash, who we went public about 2 years ago, who's the biggest player in the room, generating about 5% of the global revenue. So you got 55 to 60,000 car washes out there, and you got the biggest player in the room controlling less than 5% of the global market. So, to your point about institutions, institutions are desperately trying to get into this space. They love this space for many of the same reasons that we do, but they love this space. They're desperately trying to get into the space. They don't want to buy 2, 3, 5 of these things. They want to buy 20, 50, and 100. They want to write 50 to $100 million checks and up. So we want to be in a position where we build a large portfolio of these things. And we saw this going on. We saw this happen. The large portfolios of 20 plus car washes. The last 4 packages that traded at right around a 20x multiple. And then the Wall Street Journal, I got an article, the Wall Street Journal came out, we were talking about this, and the Wall Street Journal came out a couple months later, and they wrote about that wow, these institutions are paying this crazy multiple for these things. And we're like, yeah, that's right. And we're playing this game to service them at some point.
Dave, in real estate, we always talk about multiple exit strategies. You have your primary exit strategy. I'm going to buy an apartment building, hold on to it for 10 years and sell it maybe. That's my primary idea. But then things happen. When we saw the run-up in apartments in 18, 19, 20, there were a lot of folks who had planned to hold for 10 years, who looked at what they could get and go, man, we should get out now. And they pivot, they change that approach. But the big lesson is always to have more than one exit strategy, because you don't know what life is going to bring. So I love the fact that this is an investment where if it never gets sold to an institution, it's all good. As you get memberships up, you have more recurring revenue. As you cover those fixed costs, most of it goes to the bottom line. Those are all great things. And you're careful to find great locations. I know you don't just pick a spot on the map. You're very strategic about not only the markets, but within the market, exactly where the right traffic patterns are. And there's a lot more to it. But you do have this big goal of eventually getting enough of these assets where you can sell at a higher multiple. So love that stuff. Hey, we're talking with Dave Zook today about tax advantage investments for passive investors. We'll talk about the passive side, that is how folks get involved with something like this, when we come back. Plus, we'll play real estate trivia and give away a book that Dave's written a chapter in next. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Real estate investment advice right in your mailbox. Sign up for the free Real Estate Guys newsletter at realestateguysradio.com.
Hey, it's Robert Helms. Thanks so much for listening to the show today. I want to personally invite you to come see an amazing real estate market that combines excellent cash flow, offshore diversification, and what we affectionately call lifestyle investing. Come join me from May 5th through 8th in the beautiful country of Belize. The Real Estate Guys have been bringing investors to Belize for more than 18 years now, and our discovery trip is designed to show you the market like nobody else can. Sure, Belize is breathtakingly beautiful, the people are wonderful, and wait till you taste the food. But the real opportunity is the real estate investment potential. There's all types of opportunity in Belize when it comes to real estate investing, including both long-term and short-term rentals, commercial and retail triple net properties, business opportunities, land acquisition, development, agriculture, and more. And as the only country in Latin America with English as its official language, it's easy to understand the law. Property rights are strong, and contracts are in English. And in Ambergris Caye, a unique situation exists where demand for rentals continues to outstrip supply, creating a compelling environment for investors. So come see for yourself. Join me May 5th through 8th in Ambergris Caye, Belize, as we study the market, learn about sustainable drivers, and tour lots of beautiful real estate. And like all of our field trips, there are no properties for sale during the weekend. Rather, you'll meet lots of local providers that will help educate you about the market so you can follow up with them after the trip if the market is interesting to you. You've heard about Belize and the Real Estate Guys for all these years. Now come see what all the excitement is about. Plus, we'll have lots of time over meals and activities to talk about all things real estate. To get the details, go to the website at realestateguysradio.com and click on Events, where you'll find the Belize Discovery Trip. Once you register, you'll get information about our group hotel rates as well as travel details. So join me in Belize, May 5th through 8th. It's a beautiful country with lots of amazing possibilities, and the only thing missing is you. Go to realestateguysradio.com under Events, and I look forward to seeing you in beautiful Belize. Forbes rated Memphis the best cash flow market in the nation, and our good friend Terry Kerr at Mid-South Home Buyers has been the premier turnkey rental property provider in Memphis for over 13 years. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, Terry has renovated over 750 houses. Real Estate Guys listeners have snapped up hundreds. Discover what these satisfied investors already know. Mid-South's properties are completely renovated with a 1-year warranty and a lifelong rental guarantee. They're affordable, well-managed, and easy to own. Perfect for beginning investors and veterans alike. Get in on the action. Contact Terry and his team via email at midsouth@realestateguysradio.com.
Hey everybody, it's Ken McElroy, and I'm on with the Real Estate Guys, and I'm very excited to be a guest and a speaker at the Investor Summit on the Sand in Belize coming up. If you haven't signed up, be sure to do so.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Thanks for tuning into the show. Hey, come see an extraordinary real estate market as we head back to Ambergris Caye, Belize for a real estate discovery trip. We do this a couple times a year. It's an awesome chance to see the market up close and just hang out. If you're interested in exploring offshore real estate, you can get all the details on the website at realestateguysradio.com under Events. Look for the Belize Discovery Trip. We're talking about out-of-the-box tax strategies for passive real estate investors, and we've got Dave Zook on the program. Before we get back to the interview with Dave, it's time to play Real Estate Trivia. That's your chance to win a prize by knowing today's Real Estate Trivia question. When you hear the question and think you know the answer, send your best guess to trivia@realestateguysradio.com. First person that gets the right answer today is going to get an awesome book called Success Habits of Super Achievers. It's a collection of great stories by folks like Dennis Waitley, Tom Ziegler, Les Brown, Brian Tracy, Mark Victor Hansen, yours truly, and our guest, Dave Zook. That can be yours if you know today's Real Estate Trivia question. Last week on the show, we had Peter Schiff with us, and we asked this. Back in 2009, Peter was encouraged by many local citizens to run for U.S. Congress. In which state did Peter run? The answer? The great state of Connecticut. And in case you're wondering, Peter came in third with 23% of the vote. That's why we don't call him Congressman Peter Schiff. Here's our real estate trivia question for this week. Which U.S. airport is most likely to lose your luggage? Now, it's no fun when that happens, so you gotta be strategic. There's an airport in the U.S. that is the worst culprit for this. Which one? If you want to take a guess, or maybe you fly there regularly, send us your answer to trivia@realestateguysradio.com, trivia@realestateguysradio.com. Include your name and your mailing address so that if you're the winner, we can send you this awesome book, Success Habits of Super Achievers. That's today's real estate trivia question. We're with one of the many awesome authors in that book. Dave Zook is with us, the real asset investor. He invests and helps people invest in all kinds of different real asset classes. And today we're talking about car washes. This is fascinating stuff. It sounds like a business you can really clean up in, Dave. But let's talk about how a passive investor gets involved. So you've got a team, you've got boots on the ground, you're taking this on in a big way. How many car washes have you guys done so far?
So we have 8 operational sites, and we've got 4 coming out of the ground this quarter. We got 3 more coming out of the ground next quarter, and we should be between 20 and 25 operational by the end of the year.
All right.
Then we've got a busy 2024 plan, even busier than 2023. So we got a lot in the pipeline.
Excited to hear about that. So obviously you do these through real estate syndications. You raise capital and you need that kind of help as you continue to expand. You already have a big book of business, but how does an individual get involved? I'm guessing this is a fairly passive investment for most folks.
Yeah, so I've got a great team. Engage with my team. They'll walk you through the process. First, we got to make sure that you're an accredited investor. The deal is only open to accredited investors, but they'll walk you through the process on how to get signed up. Our projections show a very healthy IRR and a very healthy cash flow. This is one of those asset classes. It's unlike that long drawn out sort of building time frame of, let's say, a multifamily apartment building or self-storage. Sometimes this, from the time you get your go, you can be up and running in service in 8 months. That building is modular, so it goes up really quick. But in terms of an investor coming in, connect with my team, they'll walk you through that process. It's almost as passive as the investment itself. You call my team, they'll walk you through that process, explain the deal, make sure it's right for you, and they'll get you into the deal.
Now, Dave's put together a report that explains more details about the business, and we've just hit the high notes, but we'll tell you how to get that before you're done. And as he mentioned, he's got a big pipeline. So if you're interested now, great. If you're interested in a year, great. It's all good. This thing is exciting to hear about. Hey, in our time remaining, Dave, let's talk about how you went from a guy looking for tax benefits and buying some real estate to a guy that brought his friends and family along, to a guy that today spends the majority of your time helping passive investors find opportunities. To date, you've raised over $800 million. Take us through that story.
Yeah, so it wasn't long after I realized that how this game is played and how you really can make a lot of money and pay no tax legally. That to me was life-changing, and it was exciting, and I couldn't be quiet about it. One of the things that I quickly realized that there was many other people that were in the same shoes that I was in. Having been in business for decades, I had a lot of contacts of successful business people, and I quickly realized that they had the same problem, and they didn't understand how to get out of it. Many of them were caught in that same trap. If you make a lot of money, you got to pay a lot of tax. So being able to kind of shed some light on that and show them the possibility, one of the most fun parts of what I do is, you explain this thing and you tell them how the tax thing works. And you tell them, look, if you use this depreciation to offset tax liability on your income or whatever, here's how it works. And they're like, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I understand. Okay, great. And you think they understand it. And then they get their K1 the next year and they're like, wait, this does work. You mean like this? Yeah, just like we talked about 8 months ago. But it is so much fun just, seeing the tax shackles being removed from them like it was being removed from me so many years ago. It's just all kinds of fun.
Love that. Well, you've had so much success that we love to get you out to our 2-day event, The Secrets of Successful Syndication. You're a guy that started attending that event and then started sharing a little bit at that event, and now you're one of our headline speakers because you've really done the thing. Talk about that event. You've been probably more than most people, and if someone's thinking about getting into the business of syndication, whether it's real estate or businesses or major motion pictures, putting together money to do bigger deals, talk about the syndication event coming up.
Well, one of the things that I quickly decided when I decided that I was going to get into managing other people's money or raising capital to do deals, number one, it scared me half to death.
Yeah.
And I knew that if I was going to do this, I wanted to get around the guys who were teaching about this, who could help me. And so I quickly joined the inner circle from that you guys put together. And it was the only group that I knew that was teaching about this stuff. You guys were out there really shining a light on and teaching about it. So I made up my mind that if I was going to do this, I was going to shortcut the whole process to get around people who were doing it and teaching it.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many people I've said to who were looking to get into space. I said, don't do this without getting training. Don't do this without getting teaching, mentoring. Not only will they help fast track, but it'll keep you out of trouble too. And being able to talk about the legalities, you talk about the legal part of what the do's and don'ts and how to do syndication the right way. So I always tell people, look, if you're going to do this, don't do it without getting some training. So I would encourage anybody who's looking to get into this space, and or even just people who are looking to get around investors and maybe meet operators, and they're looking to put passive income to work with an operator. Come there to meet different operators who are out there doing different things and find the right deal that's right for you.
All right. So if you'd like to consider a career in real estate syndication, or you'd like to learn how to passively invest, guys like Dave Zook, come on out to the Secrets of Successful Syndication. The next one happens in October 2023. All the details on the website at realestateguysradio.com under events. Dave, it's been great catching up with you. Love the Carwash story. If you're interested in his report, and it's got more details than we're able to get into about car washes, just send an email to, it's coming, carwash@realestateguysradio.com, carwash@realestateguysradio.com. And if you're interested in the ATM opportunity, owning automated teller machines and the tax advantages and cash flow advantages to that investment, all you have to do is send an email to ATM@realestateguysradio.com, ATM@realestateguysradio.com. Dave, we'll see you at the Secrets of Successful Syndication. Congratulations on your continued success, and thanks so much for sharing with us today.
I'm looking forward to seeing you guys and a bunch of other investors in Dallas. Thanks for having me back on the show.
There's David Zook. He's the real asset investor. More when we come back. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Need help with your real estate investment portfolio? Check out the resources page at realestateguysradio.com.
Real Estate Guys listeners, are you tired of losing real estate deals due to financing issues? Have you had enough of waiting on banks, lenders, and investor groups to fund new projects? What if there were a way to eliminate all the hassle and invest in real estate on your own terms? I'm here to tell you there is. Patrick Donahoe here from Paradigm Life. I'm an Investopedia Top 100 Most Influential Financial Advisor, and I recently wrote a best-selling book about the financial strategy that changed my entire investment model, and the one that could change yours. To get a copy of my book for free and learn how you can maximize your real estate portfolio by acting as your own bank, send an email to mybank@realestateguysradio.com. Don't make another real estate deal without reading my book first. Email mybank@realestateguysradio.com now to get your copy for free.
Hey, ever wished you could go back in time and do some tax planning? Now you can, just like Marty McFly. Lucky for you, a brand new federal law just made this possible with an EQRP to get tax deductions and reduce your taxable income from last year, so you can use that tax savings to invest in real estate, Bitcoin, gold, even your own business. Whether you're a full-time investor, doctor, government employee, even if you have 5 or 50 employees, the EQRP works and is your secret weapon, and now it's retroactive. Hey, I'm Damian Lupo, and we have your solution. By the way, if you got bad advice and used an IRA for an apartment syndication, you are sitting on a U-bit time bomb. But don't worry, there's a solution, the EQRP. The EQRP company is ready to help you get control of your money, kill U-bit, and help you pay way less taxes. Want to learn more about this strategy? Send an email to eqrp@realestateguysradio.com for my special EQRP report. Paying tax or letting Wall Street suck you dry is dumb. Your first step is freeing your retirement money by sending an email to eqrp@realestateguysradio.com today.
Hey, this is Phil Cullen of Def Leppard and Delta Deep, and I'm with the Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Thanks for tuning into the show. Hey, if you want to have more influence, be able to persuade, be able to help people make great decisions, or if you're in sales in any way, you're definitely going to want to attend How to Win Funds and Influence People. It's our 2-day sales workshop. It only happens once a year, and that time is coming up. Get all the details on the website at realestateguysradio.com. Check out where it says events, and you'll see how to win funds and influence people. Speaking of a guy with a lot of influence, oh my goodness, great to hear from the amazing Dave Zook.
Yeah, it's really interesting because just as you were promoting the how to win funds and influence people, it made me think about the basic premise, which is that salespeople don't really sell things or promote things like, the old saying, he's such a good salesperson, he could sell ice to an Eskimo. Well, a professional salesperson would never do that.
Right.
And you can't really make money. What you do is you attract capital. And the way you attract money is by prescribing solutions to people's problems. In this case, Dave has built an $800 million career in less than a decade, prescribing, if you will, tax solutions to people who have tax problems. And one of the things that I loved, two things that I loved about what he said. Number one, I love the way he kept saying, removing the tax shackles. That is so visceral. That is so visual. And it resonates with me just a ton. And of course, anybody who understands that old adage that tax freedom day is somewhere in late April or May, and all the money, 100% of the money most people earn for the first 4 to 5 months of the year go to pay their taxes. And after that, they get to keep the money for themselves and their family. But he talks about how he sits down with his investors on the front end. And the first question he asks is, how are you getting taxed? How are you earning your money? And as we talked about at the top of the show, that active, that passive portfolio, and realizing that deals, all kinds of different deals, and these are out of the box deals, but they're still basically real estate, can provide different types of tax breaks and be divided, especially in syndications, differently among different classes of investors that need those particular tax breaks. So I love the way Dave has taken the training, the things that he learned, the people that he's met, and not just learned them so he can talk about them, but as our motto is on the Real Estate Guys radio show, he's taken his education and put it into effective action. I hope everybody listening to the show does the same thing, because if Dave can do it, having watched him do it, I promise you can do it too.
100%. It's one of the things I love the most about Dave Zook is he is every guy. There is nothing about Dave that has you go, well, he could do it, but I couldn't. He's a great man of integrity and diligence, but he's just a regular guy. Worked hard building up a business, works within his family business, and recognized this tax benefit. And as he said himself, he couldn't not talk about it. He was telling anyone that would listen, oh, you're paying too much tax, right? And again, not a tax professional. He, of course, works with a couple of great tax professionals. And one of those tax professionals, Tom Wheelwright, will be on the show in a couple of weeks. So if you're into the tax topic, it's hard to book Tom this time of year, but we wanted to have Tom come on and give us just anything that will help us going into tax season as you're preparing your return. Even though 2022 is in the books, there are still a few things. And of course, Tom will give us hopefully a glimpse into what may be coming down the road. He's a great student in that regard. But Tom's so infectious about tax. When they met on the summit, Dave Zook and Tom Wheelwright, it's like, wow. And Dave was just drinking from a fire hose. And today he's just turned right around and helped other people do that. He quotes Tom all the time. So it's not that one investment is better than another. It's that depending on how you earn your money, and Rusk, you alluded to this at the top of the show, there are certain investments that will treat you better when it comes to taxation. And that has to do with how you earn your money, how you hold your assets, some of those kinds of things.
Well, we had a big tax reform occur just a few years ago, and still many of the benefits that were written into that tax reform are currently available. And you mentioned Tom Wheelwright. Of course, he's a faculty member at the Secrets of Successful Syndication. So if you've ever wanted to meet Tom, that's an opportunity to do that. You can hear him on the show, but you can come out and meet him. And, you really think about, we say this all the time as we promote our Investor Summit and other events that we do, and not just events we do, but events other people do. And we attend more events of other people than those that we do of ourselves. So we eat our own cooking. We take our own advice. But what is the value of just one good idea or one relationship or one opportunity? And the way we've got a couple of these stories. So one of the stories is we have this guy, Brad Sumrock. He teaches people how to invest in apartments, another great place to get tax breaks. And Brad came to our Investor Summit where he met Kenny McElroy, great multifamily syndicator. Kenny's talking to Brad, and they're comparing notes, both as multifamily guy. Brad is bragging about how he's going to pay $1 million in tax because it's a badge of honor because he makes so much money. Kenny saw it a different way. He thought that's pretty stupid because there's no reason why you should be paying that much tax if you're in the same space I'm in. You need a new CPA. Well, who was that CPA? Tom Wheelwright. So the relationship between Kenny and Brad led to Brad being introduced to Tom, where he got the idea that you got to change your tax by changing your facts. Brad changed the way he was behaving, exactly what Dave Zook was talking about, and the very first year eliminated $985,000 of tax from his tax liability, which immediately became investable income. So you think, well, what does it cost me to go on something like the summit where it might cost you $10,000 or $15,000 to go? Well, the question is what does it cost you if you're not there and you don't have that conversation, you don't meet that person, you don't get that great idea? We can't promise at any given event that that's going to be the one. It's kind of like being a venture capitalist. You're going to make a lot of investments. Some are going to pan out, some aren't. But I can promise you this, if you're not in the room, if you're not in the conversation, if you don't get the introduction, if you don't hear the good idea, to quote the late, great Jim Rohn, the book you don't read, or the person you don't meet, or the idea that you don't get, or the event you don't attend cannot help you. The only way to find these answers is to get out and mix. And, you know, when you really listen to the essence of Dave and what has made him successful, and I've been a student of Dave Zook going on 12 years now, Dave has what I've found to be a common trait among successful people that I know. Unfortunately, working with you, Robert, I've met a lot of very successful people. They're humble, they're curious, and they're diligent. And so they don't try to be the smartest guy in the room. They try to seek out the smartest guy in the room. They put their problems on the table. They're humble. They're not afraid to say, I've got problems. They ask for help, and then they diligently apply the solutions they've been given. And funny thing happens, they find success. It's really, you know, Tony Robbins says success leaves clues, and everybody's looking for all the technical information. It really isn't technical. The technical information changes depending on the circumstances and what's going on in the world. What really needs to change is the paradigm of how you go about addressing your problems. And Dave is a case study in how to do it right. And he's been fabulously successful, probably beyond anything he ever thought of or imagined when he got onto this train.
So whether you're thinking, wow, I'd love to be a syndicator, I'd love to learn how to do what Dave's done, or you're a passive investor thinking, I'd love to come learn about a bunch of passive investments, then join us for the Secrets of Successful Syndication. You'll meet David Zook. You'll meet attorney Mauricio Raoult, who will share everything you need to know to be legally compliant. You'll meet real estate developer Victor Menashe, host of the Real Estate Espresso podcast. You'll meet the incredible CPA and best-selling author Tom Wheelwright. All the details on the website, realestateguysradio.com. Under events, it's the Secrets of Successful Syndication. A big thanks to Dave Zook for sharing his ideas and his clean car mantra today with us. If you're interested in car washes, just send an email to carwash@realestateguysradio.com, and you'll learn all about the industry. And then if you want to learn more about what Dave does, you'll have his contact details. If you're interested in the ATM investments, figuring out how to invest in automated teller machines, send an email to atm@realestateguysradio.com. Speaking of niches, we've got a really cool one to talk about next week. Until then, go out and make some equity happen.
This episode of the Real Estate Guys radio show is brought to you by Paradigm Life. Powerful cash management strategies using life insurance. Learn more at beyourbank.com. Mid-South Home Buyers. Low-cost, turnkey cash flow properties in Memphis, Tennessee. Corporate Direct. Asset protection strategies for real estate investors from attorney and Rich Dad advisor Garrett Sutton. Find these and other great companies under the Resources tab at realestateguysradio.com. To learn how you can expose your product or service to the Real Estate Guys audience, call 888-489-7723 extension 4. That's 888-489-7723 extension 4. Or use the feedback page at realestateguysradio.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week right here on the Real Estate Guys radio show.